The last 20 years at Rare have been a roller coaster ride. It began the GameCube era as a Nintendo second-party studio, but was purchased by Microsoft in 2002. It was a shock, and after several prominent staffers left the company, it struggled to release any hits for Xbox. In 2010, it was relegated to working on Kinect games, and many assumed the developer would fade into history. Things started to change in 2015 with the Rare Replay collection, leading up to its pirate MMO experience, Sea of Thieves, in 2018. It launched as a shell of a game, but since then, it's transformed into something far more robust. It's Microsoft's most successful new IP of the generation, with over 20 million players. But what is it like for someone just coming on board for its fourth season? Let's find out if Sea of Thieves is a game pass or a game fail.
To the Sea of Thieves! Quick as you like. Chop, chop.
Sea of Thieves is essentially an exploration game. You and a group of other players sail the seas looking for island treasure while battling other ships along the way. The onboarding process has been drastically improved over time.
There's far more to being a pirate than a blade in your hand and a love of other people's money.
There's now an in-depth tutorial that explains the basic controls and gameplay loop. Commanding a solo ship isn't too difficult, and completing basic quests is reasonable. The problem is that once the onboarding is complete, there's not much direction given to the player. You know that you can keep taking more quests, but what's the overarching goal? There really isn't one.
I'm watching you thieving pirate.
The biggest draw for most new players is the crossover with Pirates of the Caribbean that released a couple months ago.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Though, since you came here to rescue me, you probably knew that already.
Jack Sparrow found and lost a treasure that could doom the entire Sea of Thieves. It's your job to team up with him and get it back. It's easily accessible from the start, and it adds much needed structure. It's not especially compelling, but it's still the highlight of the experience.
It's a foul winter night.
One of the fundamental problems with Sea of Thieves is its gameplay. In the course of being a pirate sim, it tries to be a jack of all trades. It's a first-person game, but the gunplay still feels loose and the light platforming required also feels off. All the navigation requires manual use of maps and compasses, and while we get that it's how real pirates used to do it, it quickly becomes tedious. You are asked to manually control each part of the ship like the sails, anchor, cannons, and wheel, but then you're also relying on teammates doing what they are supposed to do. Handling it all on your own is possible, but not recommended. Combat makes up a decent portion of the game, but it still lacks any sort of depth. You have a sword and a gun, but if there's more to combat beyond hacking at skeletons and spirits until they die and chomping on bananas to replenish your health, we haven't found it. Progression in Sea of Thieves is non-existent. There's no way to become a stronger pirate. Instead, your plundering is rewarded with new cosmetics. It recently moved into a seasons model for new content releases complete with the requisite battle pass. Most of the benefits and rewards can be attained for free. One progression track that isn't purely cosmetic is a reputation level with various factions, but it only unlocks new, riskier ventures with greater rewards. There's a lot to do, but if you don't care about how your pirate looks, it's hard to become invested.
Be quick, time's precious.
The main hook for this pirate sim is playing with others. You can gather a party of friends or just join a random game, and either works fine. Sometimes you'll join a crew in the heat of the moment and are left scrambling to try and find a role. But it's also a great way to sample a lot of the late game content like the siren battles that were added in the most recent season.
Your death shall be a warning to those above!
It's entirely possible for a single experienced player to carry the entire crew, but having extra deckhands helps fill in the downtime with song and dance. Conceivably, you can get into skirmishes with other ships full of human players, but the sea is so vast that you rarely run into any. The same goes for massive sea creatures lurking in the depths. While the dedicated player versus player mode is fun enough, we've never seen another crew out on the open ocean. You would think that a pirate sim would be hard to find comps for, but Sea of Thieves' core tenet of exploration is well represented on Game Pass. No Man's Sky covers a lot of the same ground. It's just set in space, and includes a lot more structure and progression. Fallout 76 is another open-world multiplayer game where you have to make a lot of your own fun. It's improved a ton since launch, but it still isn't exceptional. Forza Horizon 4 is another open-world multiplayer game, Its core gameplay is excellent, but it's obviously an entirely different genre. If you are just looking for something that requires multiple players working together towards a team goal, Overcooked 2, Unravel 2, and A Way Out are all solid cooperative games. Games like The Elder Scrolls Online, Destiny 2, and even Minecraft are there to scratch that massively multiplayer itch, but only on console. Now it's time to find out, is Sea of Thieves a game pass or a game fail?
I say you're as ready as you'll ever be for what's ahead.
Sea of Thieves features a unique gameplay loop, but you have to dig through a lot of dirt to find its buried treasure. This has been true since its launch, and the myriad updates haven't changed it much. The gameplay is rough, and the progression is almost non-existent. It's a lot more forgiving to newcomers than it used to be, but there aren't enough frivolities to fill in the excess downtime. It's a great time waster, characterized by huge stretches of downtime, interrupted by bursts of panic. If you have a group of friends who want to commit to the pirate life, there's some fun to be had, if you're patient. But this doesn't fit the Game Pass model especially well. Over 3 years after its initial release, it appears this is what Rare wants the game to be, but it only appeals to a limited audience. Sea of Thieves is a game fail. Join us next week as we take a look at Marvel's Avengers.